Welcome back. You tuned into Inspired Afternoons with me, your host, Maria Mia. And now it's time for Educational Insights, my favorite segment, my passionate segment of Inspired Afternoons. And this is where we discuss, where we offer counsel and advice to parents and learners as they undertake their educational journey. And for me, education is leading a child towards responsible adulthood, whereby we have productive, contributing members of society then who then give back to society. And today I'm speaking to expert educator Kesandra Gounden. She is an educator that has experience teaching both local as well as international curriculums as well. And she is a head tutor at the Collective Genius Center. And this is a tuition center that provides support for students wanting to complete a high school qualification in the British aligned curriculum. Collective Genius has a student centered approach, and learning plans and tutorial styles are adapted to the individuals. And for me, this is important in education. That is important. And each child is a unique individual. Each learner is a unique individual with a unique learning style, ability to understand information, revise information, and consolidate, and more importantly, how they are then able to practically apply that information. So I'm pleased that I speak to somebody who has this approach of not teaching to a curriculum or syllabus, but rather teaching to an individual, because that essentially is what education is all about, focusing on learners as opposed to curriculums. So let me welcome Kesandra. Good afternoon, Kesandra, and welcome to Inspired Afternoons here on Salam Media.
Good afternoon, Miriam. Good afternoon to all the listeners as well.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's first, before we go into what is the British aligned curriculum and the essence of this curriculum and the syllabus, tell me a little bit about the Collective Genius Tutorial Center.
Sure. So the Collective Genius is a tuition center here in Rosebank. We focus on getting students ready for British aligned curriculum external examinations. And the way we do that is we have a timetabled approach to the day where students follow specific lessons throughout the day from the hours of 8:15 until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We also focus on the student approach, like you said earlier. The groups in which we have these lessons are small. So we have small, very, very small groups of people that are in the lessons with us. So having those small groups and having those small classes really does give us the platform to get into more detail and more depth with the particular student.
Okay, and then like everybody else, I'm sure Collective Genius Tutorial Center also had to adapt and then innovate in terms of, yes, I think Life 2020 is known as a year of adaptation and innovation. So 100%. You also had to innovate and adapt in terms of managing the COVID pandemic. At the same time, the students not losing out on the educational year. So how did the Collective Genius handle this whole process?
Yeah. So I think with being a smaller setup, where we are focused on the student, like I said, and focused on what they need to learn, we were able to adapt well in the sense that, from the time we knew about the pending lockdown, we already put into place some plans that we could implement. For example, We set all the students up with the Zoom accounts before we had to leave the center. We made sure that they knew how to use the Zoom accounts. We did trial lessons on the Zoom accounts. And then, moving into what we now called our online classroom, it was a learning curve for everyone. So it was a learning curve for the students as well as the tutors. But I feel that when everyone has a positive mindset and a positive attitude towards the change and the new beginning that we had to all embark on, it really was something that we all were open to and everyone was on board with. So using the different technologies and platforms that became available to us, it was really an enlightening experience that we all entered into. So right now we use many different platforms and all there to support the students wherever they need it.
So, Kesandra, from what you said, what's very telling for me and vital for me is the orientation of getting both your tutors as well, and more importantly, your learners familiar in terms of navigating these platforms and understanding how to use them, because you can have the most fantastic technologically advanced platforms, but if your learners are not confident and feel overwhelmed by the technology or just don't know how to apply these platforms, then they're worthless and they're useless. So for me, that was a big issue, and I think a challenge for both learners and parents was the orientation of these platforms, because there was no time given to practice and orientate yourself to using this platform. It was almost as if you're supposed to know how to use this, and if you don't, then you're ignorant, or you know what, you're not up to scratch. And it was linked to your self-confidence to say, oh, well, this family are so like living in the dark ages because they don't know how to apply, use this platform. But there was no support and sensitivity to given in terms of even just how to set up, how to install this, how to mute. I mean, a simple thing like muting and unmuting, you don't realize, as well as explaining to learners and parents as well the features, so the advanced features of what this platform can do, whether it's recording a lesson, be it muting something. You don't have to see. So if you're sitting in your pajamas, you can block out your screen and just get the audio as well, but at the same time, you can take it in. So I'm so pleased you said at Collective Genius, there was an orientation session before the actual lessons commenced.
Yes, yeah. So we tried our best to implement that before the hard lockdown came, and that was just before level 5 when educational institutions were deemed to close. And I think that the continuous learning is something that we had to all embark on when we started this online journey. We couldn't get frustrated with each other, at the technology, at the students. So I think patience and understanding really did come into play, a lot in the beginning, especially. But I think with students at this point, technology is something that they thrive on and they love. Exactly. So in order to kind of, move their learning in that direction, you just have to find something that they're already passionate about, So students, they love being on WhatsApp. They love being on their computers. And if you find a way to get their interest, in some sort of way, in some sort of method that you're using, it does open up their minds and their thought processes a little bit more, and then you can captivate them and really get the best out of them using things that they already use every single day.
Yes, and then I see another opportunity in terms of that open up, because especially the students you focus on are your high school learners. I know with the British Align curriculum, they term different terminology as opposed to what we have in terms of the South African CAPS syllabus. But you are dealing with people that are learners that are 14 years upwards. So they more focus in terms of getting them prepared to online. And if you realize now that silver lining is students can be anywhere in the world, and if they just plug in online, they're still able to get this um, dynamic, a benefit of this dynamic curriculum, as well as with expert tutors and that. So you don't have to be physically now coming into a classroom. So at the moment, Collective Genius can reach a wide variety of learners the world over, whoever is interested in terms of wanting to write the British aligned examination. The Tutor Center can offer them support in terms of preparing for this, understanding the and mastering of learning content and consolidation thereof. So I think that was the great silver lining once the whole technology got up and running, that you'd be able to reach a lot more students, irrespective of geographical location constraints.
That's correct. So with the current situation, we are not really sure when this will end, if it will end. So I think that if in order for us to adapt and for the students to adapt, we need to be very open to changes and adapting as well. So currently we are trying out something called the dual classroom. So like you're talking about, students from all over the world potentially joining our classes. That's exactly what can happen. So we will offer students to come into the center for physical classes, obviously in a socially distanced manner. I mean, the entire center has really been COVID ready since we opened again. So it's not that, when you come into the center, it's going to be as it was. It's obviously going to require you to follow certain procedures in terms of wearing a mask, sanitizing, and social distancing. In saying that, we do have the dual classroom where tutors can be in the classroom or they can be online. Students can be in the classroom or they can be online. So it's a full dual classroom. Like we've had classes where the tutor isn't in, but some students are in. And then again, we're making use of technologies, we're making use of projectors, we're making use of screen sharing. Like you were talking about earlier, the full use of these applications and like Zoom, Teams, as well as WhatsApp, they've all been used to the full extent. And we've seen that there's really, really so much more that we can look forward to. And so we've had many inquiries coming from all over South Africa, as well as, a few in Dubai, one in the UK. So we really are getting a much broader spectrum of students because of being in the dual setup.
And I love this. I love catering for everybody's constraints and needs and requirements and that. So now let's move on to British aligned curriculum. So can you explain to us what is a British aligned curriculum, and what are the British aligned curriculum in terms of the qualifications? If you can just explain it to us in terms of what we understand, like we focus on high school, we have maybe grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, 11, and then we get matric, and then grade 8 and 9 is junior secondary, and then from grade 10 to matric, senior secondary. So in terms of that, how do we have the British aligned equivalents to this? And I know when you come to and then everybody hears, I think, thanks to mainly television as a medium, people are writing A levels and O levels because we see it in programs where teenagers are either studying for these. So we hear these A levels and O levels and, oh, you're doing, or relatives tell you, oh, child, or I'm busy studying for my A and O level. So what is the A and O level? And what is the curriculum, basically, the British aligned curriculum all about?
Sure. So the British aligned curriculum is a world recognized curriculum. Your student or any student can complete their qualifications with different examination bodies. For example, Cambridge or EdExcel. Now, A levels and O levels and the IGCSEs, those are with the Cambridge examination body. EdXL have their own qualifications. So if we had to go a little bit deeper into the qualifications that you can get and trying to equate them or give you equivalencies into the South African context, in the British Aligned curriculum, we have lower secondary. That is grades 7 to 9. So once you've completed your lower secondary qualification, you are said to have completed your grade 7 to 9 years. Once you've completed your lower secondary, you move into upper secondary level 1, which is under the South African context known as grade 11 or grade 10 and 11. That would be done over at least 18 months to 2 years. After you're done with the upper secondary level 1, you'll move on to upper secondary level 2. And that is now the A level and the AS level that you are referring to. So the AS and the A levels are a grade 12 and grade 13 equivalents. So AS level is a school leaving qualification. You can stop at the AS level and you have said to have attained a qualification through the Cambridge Examination Board, and you will have a matric or grade 12 equivalent degree. Sorry, not degree, obviously just a high school leaving certificate. And then your A level would be equivalent to the grade 13. Now, the A level is the qualification that really does set a candidate apart from a candidate who just has like a normal grade 12 school leaving certificate. The reason that the A level gives you such an advantage is because when it comes to university entrances, they really do have more weight when it comes to points going into South African as well as other countries' universities. It also helps the student to navigate first year, second year, and third year a little bit better than a normal grade 12 school leaving student would have. The reason for that is the work, the actual content covered in the A level really does give you the opportunity to open your learning, your thinking, and your analytical and critical thinking skills up to the way that we are required to do so in university.
So, Kesandra, if both parent and child are now thinking, you know what, I'm entering high school and somebody's in grade 7 now and they feel, you know what, is because British Aligned curriculum are internationally recognized in almost every country you go, you'd find either one of the British Aligned curriculums there, and then you could apply to write these British Aligned examinations. You mentioned two of them that you could apply to write, and that. So, what do you do? How do we do it in South Africa? Is there academy or there's somebody at the alliance that you register for, and then obviously Collective Genius is one of the online tutor, not online but online as well as physical tutoring centers that will provide tuition and support to work through this curriculum and get you prepare you for the examinations. And then I don't know, do you allow students to write the examinations here or they can write it online, and how does it work? So that question as well. And then now in terms of Umulisi, which is the body then certifies. So even once you've written matric, your certification in terms of that comes from Umulisi to say now you've attained a matric pass, or if it's exemption pass or just a matric leaving certificate. Obviously, exemption is going to allow you entry into universities as well. So how does it do that? Does Umulisi then recognize your A-level school leaving grade 12 leaving certificate, or then the grade 13 one as well? So is it easy then? So once I wrote it, and I have no ambition of going overseas just as yet, but I want to study in one of the South African universities, is this difficult then to get um, this recognized so that you can then enter university? So I've asked you a couple of questions, and then you can just take it as in and just answer them for me.
Okay. Sorry, Miriam, what was your first question?
The first question is the application process, then to apply,
Okay.
to then move over to where do we do it? Where is,
Sure.
how do you register?
Okay.
Which institution?
Sure. So the first part of the question, where do you write? So when you come to a tuition center, you will be known as a private candidate. Now, if you go onto any British Aligned curriculum websites, you will see that there is a special, you know, entrance body that deals with private candidates. So they basically assist anyone who is wanting to write those exams. And there are many centers across the country that are known as Cambridge or Edexcel examination centers. And private candidates can apply and go and to write any British Aligned curriculum exam with a registered examination center. The two main ones that we use that are actually located across the country are the British Council. They have branches in Johannesburg as well as Cape Town, and the British International College. They are also located all across the country in different branches. And then in terms of how it's recognized in South Africa, so it is fully recognized. You just need to get a certificate from USAF, which is University South Africa. They convert your British Aligned curriculum results into something that you can take over into the South African universities. It's done completely through the USAF board, and we've had many students that have gone through that and have been successful in their acceptance at South African universities.
So yeah, I think part of I know many people this type of curriculum, because it's internationally recognized, the curriculum, and also it allows, like you say, your grade, sort of your grade 10 and 12, you can even complete it in 18 months. So you have between 18 and 24 months. So it appeals to somebody who probably, especially those, I'm thinking of the Muslim community where learners are studying Hifz. And because they took a year off for Hifz now and they want to get back to it, so they want to complete things in maybe grade 10 and 11 in 18 months, they're allowed to do this, and then they can move on to the matric, so then they can compensate for the year that they have taken off for the Hifz as well. So even if they want to take off for 6 months for Hifz, and then still they've not lost time, so to speak, in terms of the schooling career or the academic career. So this is quite appealing, but I think just not knowing the process in terms of applying to write a British Aligned examination, as well as then afterwards, will I be able to still register and for an admission into a South African university? And like you say, many of the students have done it, and it wasn't complicated, and there's a proper body that you apply to do this. So it's not difficult. All the processes and all the bodies are there so that you can just follow this.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of learning material now, is it easily available? I'm sure now with online, it's much easier in terms of your resource and your learning material to learn, to prepare yourself for this British Alliance examination. Does Collective Genius assist in terms of sourcing the various required learning material?
Yes, we do. We have a curriculum provider. So it's basically an organization called Think Digital. They're a full online college. And what they do is they basically present all the content in an online platform. And then that is where students would continuously revert back to, where they would have many video content that they can go through, assignments and assessments to keep up to date, and just regularly touch base with some sort of consolidation that also helps them with that. So having a curriculum provider like Think Digital really does assist learners in consolidating whatever we're doing in the tuition sessions with them, taking that back into their own learning, their own studying, and making all the knowledge with all the different platforms their own. So in terms of, content, that would come from Think Digital. They also do have some online textbooks that are available to the students. And we also provide lots of extra material, support, worksheets, workbooks, assignments, and assessments.
So this sounds fascinating. So if there are any parents out there, learners out there, maybe even now that you are in grade 9 now, and you'd like to switch over and consider an alternate curriculum and an alternate study option in that. So I think a British aligned curriculum is something to look at, because whichever country you are, it's easy to access, and it's an internationally recognized qualification. And especially for those of you that want to study at international universities abroad, this type of exams really recognized, and actually it's a good pass in terms of, nowadays they say, because with our South African pass in terms of writing caps, just to pass you need 33.3 per subject. And really, how competent if you attaining 40% of something like this, really you only know 40, but you're only 40% competent. That's what it spells. Whereas I know the criteria with British Alliance curriculums, the bar is much higher in terms of competency level, and that so it's definitely worth the paper that it's written on, so to speak. And you have an internationally recognized school leaving certificate as well that will hold you in good stead wherever you may be, both local and abroad. And like Kesandra has told us, it's quite easy actually to convert it in something to South African equivalent when applying at universities. So definitely something to look out for. And nowadays, in terms of this, they offer, Collective Genius offers dual medium in terms of learning. So coming physically to their premises, or studying online. So the option is there. So wherever you may be, I think the silver lining, as I mentioned earlier, of COVID is that they also know now we're capable of this dual medium teaching and studying. So are you open for, in terms of applications for next year? Can people contact Collective Genius? So all Collective Genius details are now on Salam Media platform and on our website. So check them out and just Google Collective Genius, and you will then get to their webpage, and all the details will be there, as well as it's now posted on Salam Media online platforms as well. Kesandra, it's been a pleasure. In fact, educational and enlightening. And thank you for providing us with an alternate option in terms of different curriculum that is available out there.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and all the best to all the students out there dealing with the tough times that we've had in 2020.
Thank you. Much appreciated. That's Kesandra Gounden, and she's from Collective Genius Tutoring Center, and they offer online British, not online, both dual medium, so physical as well as online, British aligned curriculum preparation for those exams. That's all from us from Educational Insights. Coming up thereafter, we're going to be speaking to Hazana Ahmed, and she's an Indian-based journalist, and we're going to speak to her about losing a job offer as a result of her making it known that she would like to wear her hijab in the workplace. All this coming up after the break.